Hi guys, so I'm going to explain to you about the hand model. This is just a way of describing what goes on in your nervous system, and it was described by a neuropsychiatrist from the US, Dan Siegel, and he uses this model to explain it this way. He says, if you take your hand and you look at it from that side, you can imagine that that is a representation of what goes on in your whole nervous system, anatomically, but then also somewhat regarding the functionality. It goes like this. If you look at this part, you can imagine that this represents the spinal column, so where it comes out of the brain and then goes into the spinal column, and from there, so in the back here, having nerves coming out to every organ, every part of your body, all over. And then going from there, this part over here represents your brain stem. So this would be this part over here. And that's the part where everything automatic happens. And I'm going to get back to the functionality later on. And then on top of that, this part over here, I'm just going to turn this way. This whole part in the middle here represents the limbic system. And this consists of quite a few structures on both sides, in the left brain and the right brain. And one of the most important ones that we're going to refer to is the amygdala. And that's your alarm system. And then this part on the top over here, if you can imagine again that this is my brain cut in half when you're looking at it from that side, this is the frontal lobes over here, the frontal lobes. This whole part and then right up to the front here. And this is your thinking and making good decisions and considering part. Again, on the left side and on the right side. So when it comes to how these parts function and how they fit in together, it goes like this. We perceive, so we see, hear, smell, taste, feel, and we take that information and it all goes to these systems to tell us how we should respond to that in order to keep safe, in order to survive, in order to have the best outcome. So what happens then, if you see something that is a danger, that your brain perceives as being a danger, this part over here, the alarm system, goes off just like that. So it goes whoop, whoop, whoop. So the amygdala is this big alarm system, and it has to raise alarm immediately. What happens then, it sends messages to other structures in this area that again sends more messages to the brain stem, where everything automatic happens. So your heartbeat, your lungs, your gut, all of that is governed by the brain stem. And then from there, messages go down in the spinal column to every organ, but also to your muscles, so that you can mobilize. So when you are being threatened by something that your brain perceives as a life-threatening event, you have to get out of there. So your nervous system is very reactive. You have to either fight or flee. And when you can't do either one of those, we tend to do one of two things. We either freeze or we fawn, which means that we basically roll over and try to be cute. So when all of this happens, it happens so quickly. And you hear that all these functions happen so that you can mobilize. So you need your muscles to be full of blood and full of oxygen so that you can move or protect yourself. And when this happens, there's not a lot of blood ending up in the frontal lobes, because this is where you do the thinking, right? This part, that's where you do the thinking and the considering. And you don't need to be doing that now because you just have a split second to save your life. So you don't have to go and sit down and think, oh, am I going to go this way? Is this noise perhaps something I need to go and inquire about? What shall I do to have the best outcome? So when your frontal lobes are not getting blood while you are in this fight or flight response, you don't need them. You don't have their input into the decision that you're making. So when your alarm is going off, whatever comes out of your mouth or your behavior is probably just going to come from your alarm system without a lot of thought. And Dan Siegel describes that as you flip your lid, like that. And luckily, your brain doesn't really go like that, but your frontal lobes are not getting a lot of blood because it's not needed. So if you do want to get a better outcome, because we now understand this, the good thing to do, or the most constructive thing to do, is to notice when your alarm system is starting to turn up the volume, and when that's going off, for you to do whatever you can to regulate so that you can just turn the volume down a little bit so that your frontal lobes get some blood, this part, right? So that you can have a few thoughts about this, so that you can go, oh, hang on, the house is not actually on fire. This is actually not a life-threatening event. This is just something my partner or my boss or my child had said that's actually not life-threatening. It's just reminding me of something. Let me have a think about this before I decide how to behave. When you can do that, it's as if you get your lid back on, you get your frontal lobes involved in the decision-making, and you tend to make better decisions, more considered decisions. So when we apply the hand model onto the Be Bold model to understand the Be Bold model from this, you can think about it this way. We can have acute stress situations or acute challenges, sudden challenges, but we can also have chronic challenges. But all of them have these elements that when your alarm system starts noticing that there's a challenge, there's a threat. Remember, your brain sees it as a threat. So there's a challenge, and it can either be acute and it can be a roaring, blaring alarm that goes off, whoop, 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 and it's just red and you can't see anything but red, and you can't behave from anywhere in your nervous system, as opposed to everything that comes from the red zone. It can also be a chronic challenge, like a daily challenge, like maybe financial or relational or environmental, that you are chronically on a just slightly turned up volume of the alarm system, which means, again, that you are secreting cortisol and adrenaline the whole time, and your whole body is actually the whole time ready to fight or flee or respond with that kind of response. Also coming from the red. So most of what you will be saying, or very easily, you will go into that red zone and your reactions will come from there. You can also think that you are functioning from the green, but then it's very easily triggered your bag or your filing system that has all the information from the red zone. And then you'll have spurts of that coming up. And then on the other hand, when you do get your frontal lobes on board, back on board, when you do actually get your lid back on, you'll notice that what you do, what you decide, and how you behave is coming from the green zone. So yeah, you'll have whatever is driving you and what your values are coming from the green zone, and you will be making better decisions, and you will be acting and mobilized more towards your values-driven goals. So the hand model also, in terms of understanding what happens when you do go through a reset, when you notice that there are some red flags coming up, that's coming from your amygdala. So you get little signs, and your signs are very often a physical reaction or an emotional reaction, or you feel that you're stuck, or you feel your energy going down. And you becoming more aware of that gives you the opportunity to see those red flags. They'll be coming from your alarm system. So they're coming from the red zone. And then if you can, in those moments, recognize them and apply what you know your interrupters are. So you apply behavior, you do some actions that you know that's going to go in there and stop this process so that you don't go down that funnel, that spiral. What you're doing there is you're actually turning down the volume a little bit of the alarm system. It's like you're saying to the alarm, yes, thank you, alarm, I hear you, but I've got some other information in my brain, and I just want to get that file before I then make a decision. So then you get your frontal lobes back on. You get a little bit more blood going to the frontal lobes so that you can actually then make better decisions. So you got your frontal lobes informing your decisions now. Now you can access what is in the green zone for you, and you can make better decisions from that. So that's you applying interrupters, getting out of the red, applying more of your green zone information, and being able to function from there and be more mobilized and values orientated. So that was the Hand Model by Dan Siegel. And now we're going to have a look at how can you apply that using the Be Bold model. So when you are aware that your energy is dropping, or you are alarmed by something, or you're aware that there's a challenge and it's taking you out of flow, you can think of this hand model and what's going on in your nervous system. So the very first thing that is important is that you become aware. It's that awareness. So it's noticing, and this can be either a physical sensation, that drop in energy, or the heaviness, or a sensation of being tense, or noticing your heart's really beating fast, or your mouth is dry. Many things that can happen, or you can be aware of an emotion. So it can also be that you are aware, I'm anxious, or I feel confused, or scared, or sad, or angry. So awareness comes in different forms. It can also be that you're aware of thoughts that you cannot get out of your mind, thoughts that say, I've got to get out of here, or I've got to say what I have to say, or racing thoughts about what the other person is doing to you, stuff like that. It can also be images that even come up in your mind, like a flashback that comes up in your mind. So, but anything that you become aware of that goes with this discomfort, that's the starting point. And that's actually your frontal lobes then saying, I notice some signals coming from the alarm. And it's easier to get it when the alarm is still relatively soft in volume. That's when your frontal lobes are still able to notice, oh, you know what, this feeling, this sensation, or these thoughts, I relate to them. They go along with an alarm system going off. That's when you need to stop. So when you pay attention, you're aware, you need to stop. No more thinking, trying to sort it out. Just stop and do something else. So that's when you apply the interrupters. And you know what interrupters are going to work well for you. Some people have to move, go for a walk. Some people have to just move to the jug and have a cup of tea. And when you do that, you're actually giving that alarm system another twist and turning down volume. And then in a way, what you're also doing is you're preparing yourself to be able to do a proper reset. And it's like you're saying to the alarm system, oh, I notice you. Thank you, alarm system, for warning me, for making me aware of this imminent danger that's here. I notice your distress, and I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to do something from that as the adult me now, who has the ability to actually be with myself, be with my emotions, and make better decisions about how I want to deal with it. And of course, then when you're going through the reset process, you get to access then again. What is this really about for me? And why do I not want to be stuck here? Why is it bad for me to be stuck here? So you explore that. You explore the red thoughts. So you explore the beliefs and the meaning that you had made of these events that you link with this, with the sensations that are coming up. Then you explore what it's costing you. You remind yourself of what actually motivates you. So now you're going into the green. So your frontal lobes are getting back on board. So you're using all these skills that you have in your frontal lobes that help you compare information, add information, help you make better decisions, judge better where you want to go to, what motivates you, what outcome do you actually want, and then you make the choice to commit to specific motivators, and then you make the actions. So then your actions are not coming from your alarm system anymore. They're coming from your frontal lobes, and they are a lot better at making good decisions that actually have a good impact on you as well, and everybody around you. So that's in short how you can apply the hand model and what is going on in your nervous system using the Be Bold model.